Hello. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Hope everyone's well and appreciate everyone joining today. Really excited to bring Incubeta NMPi to life and can show you guys exactly what we're able to offer and to kind of reintroduce our services. So appreciate you joining. We're going to kick off now, and then fingers crossed that we get some more joiners. But as mentioned when I started, feel free to give a message in the chat, say hello where you are, and yeah, we'll kick off. So cool. I guess before we kind of really go into the nitty gritty of everything, I think it's really important from our side to introduce why we're here and the reasons why we're here in general. So there's we've split this out into three separate sections. Number one, as you've probably seen in the email collaterals that we've sent across, is we want to reintroduce the brand of NMPi and what we're now known as Incubeta NMPi, and to kind of reintroduce our performance offering across the affiliate space. Number two is to show you what we've been doing alongside our day-to-day in the past year. So for us, I think it's been a crazy year, of course, and there's a lot of things outside of our day-to-day that we'd love to go through with you guys and really show you what we've been up to. And then finally, to run you guys through the next steps to onboarding and scoping out opportunities with our network partners and with our AMs as well. So looking forward to today's session. Before we kick off, just I guess a bit of housekeeping. We'll try to keep it to 60 minutes. We may go over a little bit, especially if we have the Q&A at the end, but we'll try and keep it to 60 minutes. To go for everything, as mentioned, we do have the questions, comments, so feel free to ask any questions. And as mentioned, we'll be doing a Q&A at the end, so we'll be able to kind of go for everything there. And then finally, today's session will be recorded as well, so we'll be able to send all the collateral over to you guys once we finished off. Cool. So today's agenda, as mentioned, we've already gone through the reasons why we're here, to bring a performance model back to life for the affiliate networks. We'll then be going through about ourselves and the rebrand into Incubeta NMPi, go through our social responsibilities and as mentioned, what we've been up to as a team. And then the kind of cool parts of our services, what we're able to offer through the networks, and to give you kind of a bit of an educational piece on how we offer these on a performance model. The next steps, so scoping out opportunities, the Q&A, and then as hopefully you saw in our emails, is the prize draw. So the prize draw will be for anyone that is here today. So great to have so many of you here, and we look forward to having the prize draw. And as mentioned before, this will be with our partners and friends, Master of Malt as well. So really excited to offer that to you guys. Cool. So kicking off about Incubeta NMPi. And as you can see, probably at the bottom of your screens, that there's four of us here today. So I will start by introducing the team, and then we'll go from there. So from left onwards, we have Keir, who is part of the CSS team. So Keir, if you want to turn your camera off and give everyone a wave, that'd be great. Nice. I've got Nisha, who is a senior partnership manager, so works heavily alongside the affiliate space, and Shalaka, who's more invested in the CSS side, but again, a strong part of our partnerships team as well. So we'll be taking you through everything today, and I'll hand over to Shalaka, who's going to begin with the Incubeta NMPi part.
Thanks, Callum. And hi, everyone. Nice to see some familiar names within the chat. Hope you're all having a good afternoon. So yeah, what we wanted to do today was kind of reintroduce who we are as a business. And I think to do that, we need to give a bit of context. So as some of you may know, Incubeta NMPi are owned by a wider digital services group called Incubeta. And Incubeta has many offices globally, over 400 people working here. And it's made up of 4 different brands. So on the Incubeta NMPi side, we look after all types of biddable media. So what we'll be running through with you today is the type of solutions that we deliver. But then we've got the creative wing of Incubeta, which is Joystick. So a lot of the stuff that we talk about in display has actually been influenced by Joystick and working with them a lot more closely. Then we have the tech side of what we do, which is Incubeta DQ&A. So they actually resell and train other businesses in using Google Marketing Platform technology. And that tech, which is kind of very top tier tech, is what we use at Incubeta NMPi to run campaigns for your clients and all of our clients. And then our newest member of the Incubeta family is Incubeta Groundswell. So they're sort of a full e-com solution, sort of end-to-end e-com solution. And between the four of us, we make up Incubeta. And as I'm sure you can kind of guess from the change in branding, we'll all be becoming Incubeta in the next few months. So we'll all kind of lose our individual brand names and we'll be kind of becoming Incubeta as a whole. And to give a bit of a history lesson of NMPi, how we got where we are, I'll take you on to the next slide. So we began in 2004 as Net Media Planet. Some of you might remember back in the day. So we actually started as a PPC affiliate. So we've been active within the affiliate space for a really long time, back in the days where PPC was kind of landing pages that redirected to clients, back in the early days of affiliate. And a lot of things have changed since then. PPC's changed, Google and their restrictions have changed, and who we are as a business has changed too. So we became NMP, shortened our name a little bit, and we expanded as an agency. We grew more teams, we launched into display and paid social, and then we added an I, so we became NMPi. The hotly contested I stands for international. And then later on in 2013, we were acquired by Incubeta, and we became part of this wider global family. And this is probably the logo that you'll be most familiar with, the NMPi by Incubeta. And as recently as last month, we actually unveiled our new brand, which is Incubeta NMPi. And in the next few months, by September, we will be rebranding as Incubeta. So the teal will be changing to purple, yellow, orange. So lots of fun colors and fun changes. But how we work with the affiliate channel and how we work with all of you will be staying the same. We'll still be working on that performance model with all our solutions, working with you as we always have done. And the only things that will be changing really are kind of our decks and our collateral that we'll be sending over to you. So keep an eye out for Incubeta in the future. So as I mentioned, performance is really the heritage of Incubeta NMPi. So we've been delivering those kind of CPA-based campaigns for 16 years now. So we have got that sort of traditional agency side to what we do. So probably similar to who your clients are currently working with in terms of PPC agencies, if you hear them mentioning their agencies. How the agency side of our business works is where the advertiser provides the ad spend to run the activity. They're paid management fees, sort of servicing tech fees, and they deliver their campaigns according to certain KPIs. Whereas on the performance side, which is the side that we're all working on, we've sort of flipped that on its head. And we instead provide them the media spend, and we take on the risk of providing all of that ad spend, which means that we're incentivized to drive results because we're only paid when we actually drive conversions. So completely pure CPA, no sort of extra fees involved. And I think over the last year, what that's meant for advertisers is sort of a low risk model where they can guarantee an ROI and they can guarantee results. It's become incredibly popular, and we see it becoming even more popular next year too. And part of the importance of paid media in general, it's a kind of huge online revenue driving channel for brands, particularly when over the last year, all kind of marketing activity has had to transfer over to being online to try and capture those customers. And we do it end to end, so targeting users across all stages of the funnel, whether they've been on site and we're retargeting them more specifically based on things that they've browsed, or whether we're completely finding new users based on the data that we've gained from retargeting and finding audiences that we know are going to be interested in our clients. And at all stages of this, we're constantly optimizing our campaigns. We're so kind of steeped in performance that we always want to be optimizing our campaigns, trying to find out every way that we can to make sure that we're maximizing for our clients. And we work with a number of different brands across a variety of verticals. So a lot of you will probably know us from our CSS activity. So we work with a lot of retail brands, of course, through CSS. So the likes of Boohoo, Doc Martens, Lovehoney, the Conran Shop, a few examples there. But we also deliver campaigns across a number of verticals. Travel, you can see here hotels.com there. Finance, we work with insurance brands, software, the likes of Custodio. So we have a lot of kind of flexibility in how we deliver campaigns. And if you have a client that you would kind of like to find out a little bit more about, just drop us a message and we can let you know. So we're not just kind of an agency that delivers performance marketing campaigns. We also have a lot more that we do in the background, and we wanted to share that with you today to give you kind of a full picture of who we really are. So I'll hand over to Callum to run through that.
Thank you very much, Shalaka. Cool. So yeah, as Shalaka mentioned, especially over the last year, I think we've realised that we can be much more than just a performance marketing agency. And from our side, we really wanted to get that across to you and to show you what we've been doing alongside our day-to-day. So what that's entailed for us is working to build out a number of different committees that allow us to kind of focus on certain areas and to be able to kind of build up a social responsibilities across the whole of Incubeta. That's been housed into 3 different kind of tiered areas. So community, environment, workplace, and that's both externally, but also internally as well. So we thought it might be cool today just to kind of run you guys through some of those committees and kind of the mission statements that we hold for each of those as well. So those committees that we currently have are charity, diversity and inclusion, mental well-being, social and sustainability. And I would say across all 4 of us here, we're very fortunate to be a strong part of this and a big advocate for certain areas of the committees. So for myself, I'm lucky enough to work in the mental wellbeing committee, and our mission statement is to actively improve employee mental wellbeing and support at Incubeta. So there's 5 of us in the committee. We're all mental health first aid trained, and I think what we're enabling everyone to do is to have someone to speak to and to have kind of chase that stigma away when it comes to mental health in general. And it's been a really kind of amazing part of my role at the company. Another one of those committees is sustainability. So especially working in certain verticals that we do and what we offer, sustainability has definitely become a hot topic, not just for us, but as you can see globally. And our mission statement here is really to facilitate the reduction of company and employee environmental impact. And I think it's also the educational piece around sustainability and making everyone aware of what's happening in the world and how we can make a difference. One way in which we've built out something that allows us to make a difference is with kind of a carbon CO2 offsetting initiative that we've launched, and we do launch across a number of different brands that we work with. So this is something that we're able to put together when we're forecasting or when we're actually running a proposal through with a brand. And what we're actually able to do is understand and predict the amount of carbon that we're going to use or produce once running something like a paid search activity. So in the example here that we ran through with a brand is we predicted that we'll contribute 33 tons of CO2 through our paid search activity in 2021, which I think when you think of search and you think of digital, you think it's just a very green service, but it obviously it's not in that sense, and we're fully aware of that. So what we've done is we offer to offset this carbon and our PPC activity, and we've offered brands choices of different methods to be able to do so, and giving them the option to offset their carbon in any way they would like. So as you can see on the slide here, there's 4 different options that we gave a brand here, and one that's really cool is like the UK tree planting, where we're supporting the planting of trees in the UK, particularly kind of in school areas as well. So actually educating the schools around sustainability, whilst also offsetting what we're doing within our kind of agency world as well. So something that's really cool that we thought we'd like to shout out about as well. And then I'm going to pass back over to Shalaka, who's going to take you through the final 3 committees.
Thanks, Callum. Yeah, so we also have the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, which I am part of. And what we try to do is kind of develop diversity within the company and maintain an inclusive culture so that everyone feels that they can be themselves at work and feels sort of happy to be in the workplace and gets on with their colleagues. And the ways that we're able to do that is through looking at company processes, sort of running surveys and speaking to people to see what areas they want us to focus on, and communicating our commitment. So we actually have 3 affinity networks as well. So one is the LGBT network, the Women's Network, and the People of Colour network. And Keir actually heads up the POC network. So I think between the 4 of us, we've got people that have been kind of ambassadors and done a lot of extracurricular work within our time at the company. So there's a lot going on in terms of D&I. The other committees that we also have are the charity committee, and what the committee do is try to create opportunities for the workplace for all of us to kind of give back to our local communities around Islington. So whether that's through fundraising opportunities, and we've done many things in the last year, or whether that's more kind of voluntary basis, giving up time, using our digital skills, or going to sort of events to be kind of take part in charity events. Those are the things that the charity committee organise. And then finally, we have the social committee, we call it SOCO, and Nisha, Callum and Keir have all been on the social committee at some point in their careers at NMPi. And what SOCO do are organise events, so things like our Christmas party, our Swimmer party, and find ways for us all to kind of socialise with each other and unify the whole company. So we had a few kind of online ones over the last year, but hopefully we'll start to get some in-person ones over the next year. But the reason we kind of wanted to take you through our wider culture is that this is something that we want to kind of highlight, and is something that we think is important and want to speak about with our partners as well. But I'll hand over to Nisha now to run through an overview of our services.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Callum and Shalaka. Cool. So hello, everyone. Yeah, we're now going to run through sort of our solutions. We're going to start off with CSS and then sort of go to paid search, display, paid social, and then cross-channel. When it comes to CSS, I definitely say it's probably our most traditional publisher activity, in the sense that we could essentially join an advertiser's program and go live sort of with campaigns. Whereas with the other solutions such as search, display and social, we do need to build a partnership with the advertiser. So the idea is that if we do launch a brand on CSS, we'd hope that they would onboard one of our other channels as well. But yeah, Keir will be taking you through CSS, Shalak will be taking you through paid search, I'll be taking you through programmatic display, Callum will take you through paid social, and then there's some cool things that we do from a cross-channel approach as well, which we'll be talking through at the end as well. So enjoy, and over to you, Keir.
Awesome. Thanks very much for that, Nisha. Hey guys, yeah, I'm going to be taking you through the CSS side of things today. Just kind of give you like a brief overview of what we do and kind of the benefits, and kind of looking at the team as well. Awesome. Just to give you the background on CSS, it's a great way to increase the brand's market share, getting kind of the supplementary coverage. We operate mainly in the EU and Switzerland. Brands are able to use multiple CSS partners at once, and the main thing to kind of take from this slide, I always think, is that we can't be second priced against any existing shopping activity. So what we like to do is we work alongside the same URL as the client, so their shopping activity will remain the same, where we look to kind of try and make sure that we cover those other extra spaces that they're in. Cool, and I thought it would be really nice to kind of take you through the team, because often there's not a kind of faces to the team. So just to give you a brief overview, we have Fred, who kind of heads up and oversees everything. We've got Rupert, he's on the tech side of things, where he looks at the feeds. He is more in depth, he'll be a bit more technical than myself. And then in terms of myself, I on board, so Nisha, Callum and Shalaka will get the guys on board, and I will make sure the journey is as smooth as possible in terms of getting you from initial calls to setup. And then we have Ashley Management and Dilwa, who are the CSS analysts, and they essentially do all the kind of amazing stuff in making sure we optimize campaigns as best possible. And I thought it'd be really nice to kind of take you through an example. To set the scene, imagine that you are searching for a Master of Malt whiskey. Before we were working with Master of Malt, this is what you would have seen. They would have been operating in the first space, as you can see here. But they would also have been alongside some competitors. So you can see the whiskey shop, Waitrose Cellar, Close 19 taking up spaces that, you know, would be very valuable for Master of Malt to be covering. So what happens is when we come in, we are then working alongside Master of Malt on the same URL. The best part is that we're showing a rotation of products. As this is a brand generic term, we're going to be showing them more than one different types of whiskey. So the chances of people clicking through are a lot higher already. We've shown a rotation of different products and a rotation of different price ranges. As you can see, the spaces that were saturated by competitors are now taken up by us. You can see the first one there's got the price of £61, ranging all the way to, you know, 3K. So, you know, it's a range of products for a range of people. Hopefully, essentially, this means that we're taking up the space and making sure we're getting as many people through to site and eventually as many transactions as possible. The other thing to remember about CSS is the fact that compared to normal shopping campaigns, we get a 20% CPC discount. A little bit of background into that is that Google got fined for holding too much of the space at once. So what happened was they had to open the floor to other competitors, and they offered this 20% discount that we will always get. The way that we look at it is that even though when we do a pound bid, we will only pay 80 pence, that's not kind of beneficial for us because we will get the 20 pence, but it doesn't mean anything. So because we're on a performance model, we need to push campaigns as much as possible. So rather than look at it as a 20% discount, we look at it as a way that we can push campaigns by an extra 20%. So it allows us to kind of take as much impression share and space as possible. Cool. And I also thought it'd be really interesting to kind of go through from a CSS and my personal point of view, what is important to make sure that we run a really good and smooth campaign. From our side, we really need to make sure that the products are well priced. I know that's not always possible with the clients, but for instance, if you did have two products and one was priced better than the other, they're going to click through the one that's priced better. Availability, this is something that you can put in the feed. So if this is in the feed, we're able to not bid on these products because obviously it's just wasted space for everyone. And then as I alluded to earlier, I always think the best number of CSS partners, as you can work with more than one, is 3. The reason for this is that you get a rotation, which is good, but then if you go over this number, you kind of have like where you get to that point where too many cooks spoil the broth. So yeah, and then we don't get enough data to be able to make those granular changes that we'd like to. And then in terms of feed, I always think having an up-to-date feed is number one. As I know my friend Rupert would agree. If the feed's not up to date, then there's kind of no point. We also need to make sure that the feed from the client is sent over and it's not beyond 30 days, otherwise we can't do anything with it. And then kind of a good use of custom labels, very important as well. So if you do have bestsellers on site, if you put those into a custom label, we have the tools and the kind of scripts running that will push these automatically. So for instance, for that Master of Malt example, if they did have some top selling whiskies, which I know they do, we push those automatically into the feed. And then another one that's important from a client side is if they do have promotions, getting those over to us as early as possible. If you can get them in, before the sale goes live, that's always the best thing because we have to push them into the merchant center, and there's often a little bit of back and forth between us and Google trying to get these things set up as they should be. And then we also, in terms of us, our campaign structure works on a 3-tier campaign structure. So we kind of have high, medium, and low, pushing as much as possible. It kind of varies. Sometimes the low one will do well. We also have automated search sim analysis, automated campaign thresholds, which kind of means things go to the top and then we can kind of assess them in terms of how much we are spending. And then we have search trend insertion as well. Cool. And then something that we do send over to clients that we do see doing well, we have Data Studio dashboard access, which means that we can make bespoke and interactive dashboards for the client. This essentially means that we can show you as much information as possible. The dashboards are interactive, which kind of means if you wanted to specifically see before Father's Day, you could do that date range and it will compare it to the previous period before that. There's loads of different things on here. You can see transactions, revenue, which days do best, and then you can kind of come back to us if you think you can see that Friday is doing well. We can push that for you. The other thing to remember with this is if you do have tags, if you do get those over to us, it allows us more information. We can bid more granularly. We often see a lot more success if we do have tags on site. Cool. And then kind of the benefits of working with NMPi CSS. We are paid media specialists, so we use award-winning technology. There's a lot of machine learning, so the more data we have, I know a lot of you guys will be familiar with the fact that we say campaigns need 4 to 6 weeks to kind of get themselves settled, and that just kind of means the more data we take in, the more the kind of on the back end things get kind of spit out, and then we're able to make sure that we're optimized as best possible. And as you saw in the team earlier, we have client success support. There's a lot of hands on deck from the guys at the start, from Callum, Shlaka, and Nisha, to myself, Dilwar, Asha, and Najma. There's a lot of hands on deck, so if you do have emails or concerns, we're able to kind of get back to you as quickly as possible. And then kind of from a new side, we have global expansion. So Buy is now able to operate outside of the EU. The kind of territories we're looking at are US and Canada. I believe that if you check in the chat function, there would be a poll. If US and Canada is of interest to you, please do vote in that poll. It'd be interesting to see your kind of thoughts and opinions on expanding outside of these territories for CSS. Cool. And then a little little bit on a case study, again, going back to Master of Malt. So the idea here was to make sure that the CSS campaign supported the Google Shopping as much as possible on a fixed CPA. So what we did, we helped them with the feed management from the beginning to help their in-house Google Shopping. Straight away, we saw a 10% efficiency gain through the Google Shopping and all the automated search term prioritization, excuse me. This kind of ended up leading to some really good and positive results in the first year. We saw incremental revenue growth of 55% year on year, with the ROAS only dropping by 5%. So, you know, the results are there to be won if you want to run alongside your normal shopping activity. This kind of led to Master of Malt expanding campaigns across Europe with us. You know, going from strength to strength with those guys. Awesome. And I will now be passing over to Shalaka to take you through paid search.
Perfect, thanks, Keir. So yes, so paid search, probably one of the older marketing channels, probably not as glamorous as something like display or social, but very important in a client's marketing mix and a really strong revenue driver. So as Nisha mentioned earlier, we deliver our services outside of CSS, slightly different to how we deliver CSS, which can be a bit more plug and play. Our other services are kind of more created unique to the brand. We put together a strategy and we usually have to be the partner for them running that activity rather than working alongside whatever other campaigns they're currently operating. But in terms of paid search, the reason it's so important is because you're able to target users across their entire shopping journey from the moment they're in that sort of researching phase, typing in something like mattress topper, something I bought recently, so I'd research it. And then as you spend a little bit more time, you go through the funnel, and with paid search ads, you're able to target them at each stage and capturing that intent and making sure it's not being leaked to any competitors. Also, paid search complements other marketing efforts. So we'll mention cross-channel a little bit later, but how paid search tends to sit is it's able to grab those users when they've shown a little bit more intent to look at specific products, whereas something like display, you might see a banner, but then you might type in that particular brand into search, and that's where the PPC ad's able to target those users and get them to the client's site. And the targeting that you're able to get through paid search campaigns is really granular. So we're able to target down to very specific demographic insights, locations. We're even able to connect to kind of external triggers. So things such as weather. We tend to find people purchase more when the weather's a bit bad, you're stuck inside. So all these sort of things are taken into account within campaigns, and the kind of results and reporting that we're able to give through paid search is very in-depth, and that's something that we're able to pass on to our clients as well. So how do we actually support brands? So there tends to be two ways of doing it, and it tends to depend on the brand. So what we often find, and it tends to be with SMEs, kind of brands that may have one digital marketing manager who's stretched across all different channels, doesn't quite have the time to look after any of the kind of campaigns in full. And what we do for those types of brands is that we provide full coverage, and we act as their full PPC agency, delivering campaigns across all markets, across Google as well as Bing, and of course across all keyword types. And then what we find with kind of multinational brands, brands that have a PPC agency or an in-house team running sort of in-depth activity, is we provide a more gap coverage support. And the kind of beauty of running it on a CPA model is that the brand doesn't have to invest any upfront budget. If they've got secondary territories, for example, perhaps they're covering the UK and Europe through their agency, and they've always wanted to expand into Eastern Europe, but they don't necessarily want to take that risk. They don't have the resource, they don't have the budgets. We're able to deliver that for them in those secondary markets on that pure CPA model. And exactly the same across Bing activity. So of course, Google is the major player within the search space, but Bing is definitely not one to be ignored, because you'll find that your clients' competitors are live there, and if an advertiser isn't active with Bing campaigns, they're sort of missing out on conversions that they should be able to be getting. And that's again what we're able to support on that low risk model, where we can guarantee the brand a certain ROI for every sale that we drive. So how we actually deliver paid search, and this is something that does come up fairly often. It might come up in your conversations with your clients as well. So we provide a full funnel approach to paid search, which targets users across their entire user journey. So as I mentioned with that example of kind of mattress toppers, what we tend to do is we'll begin campaigns with finding out the kind of higher performing areas. So things like brand generic. When we're able to cover that, we're able to focus a bit more on that retargeting. We get higher click-through rates, high conversion rates. So we're able to gather data about the types of users that convert. And we're also able to use the commission that we generate from these areas and reinvest them into the more generic spaces where users are searching, probably researching much higher up the funnel, haven't shown as much intent to purchase yet. You don't tend to kind of type in something like red dress, go on a site and convert straight away. You do tend to have a little bit more of a look through. But what that's able to do is drive brand awareness, which then feeds into the kind of more brand and retargeting spaces. So if you do have a brand that's sort of asking about covering generic only spaces, we are able to do that in some cases, but what is, I think, something to consider is the CPA to account for the fact that we're losing those higher performance areas may increase too. So something to consider when you're speaking to your brands, but that's also where we are able to get an understanding when we have an intro call with the brand and ask all these questions. But essentially kind of full coverage from all the stages of the user journey. And I believe a poll has just been put out. So what way of working would be most beneficial for your brands, whether that's a full agency model or more gap coverage style? So also something that would be useful to send over to your brands if you're unsure about whether there's kind of opportunities for paid search. What we're able to do is using our technology. So we've got a tool called Incubeta Insights, and there's a little screenshot of that in that laptop screen. We're able to understand the competitive landscape for a brand. So we can plug in sort of top performing keywords, and then you can see that kind of graph at the bottom shows the top 10 competitors within the paid search space. For this example was a children's bedding brand. And you can see the major players, and you can see that the other brands within that space would want to be putting more kind of investment into their marketing to make sure they're getting a bigger piece of the pie. And that's something that we can put together for your clients if we're kind of going to be jumping on a call with them and give them more of an idea and a visualization of what paid search can actually deliver for them. And a bit of a case study of what we've done for clients in the past. So this is a travel brand that we work with called Malatini, who I believe we started working with around 18 months ago, just before kind of lockdown and the pandemic hit. And of course, travel, we all know what happened with travel last year. So we were asked initially to pause campaigns for them, but that ended up actually only being temporary because Malatini wanted us to keep up a certain level of exposure. And what we did to deliver that was working with minimum budgets, so making sure we're sticking to the kind of budgets that they had in place, but also making sure that we're reaching out to new customers. And the ways that we were able to do that was through some things called trust messaging. So within our copy, we'd include copy such as 100% financial protection, free cancellation, all the things that within a volatile year you want to see from a travel brand. And we found that conversion rates or click-through rates increased by 81% from this types of messaging. And we also tried to work as closely with them as possible to match to their goals. So we created kind of a new commercial model for them. So how it works with Malatini is a user will go onto their site, click through one of our ads, go onto their site, fill in a booking form, and then someone from Malatini will call them to kind of complete that order. But the inquiry form is classed as a conversion. But what Malatini wanted was to be able to differentiate the kind of higher value conversions. So what we did was make a bit of an edit to our floodlight tags that were on site, so that all the kind of information that was put into the inquiry, things like budget, number of travelers, dates, we were able to assign a value to, and the higher kind of value inquiries were prioritized. And it was doing stuff like this that helped us align to their wider business goals and helped us get through sort of a very turbulent year. And that gives you a bit of an idea of what paid search can do. And I'll hand over to Nisha, who's going to run through display.
Thanks, Shalaka. Perfect. So now I will run through sort of probably our second biggest channel via the sort of affiliate space is programmatic display. So when we started running display sort of many years ago, we just used to utilize creatives provided by the advertiser. And although we used to feed back on sort of what was working well, what people were responding to, there was no sort of approach of like brand marketing and performance marketing teams sitting together, which really sort of limited our performance, because we wanted to feed back and be like, you know, this imagery is working really well. So that basically drove us to create sort of a creative-led performance approach. So that led to us sort of investing in our own creative team, and we wanted to build a strategy that would drive both results and user experience. So sometimes display can have sort of a negative view within the industry as being quite pop-uppy and quite annoying, but we wanted to sort of build creatives that users would interact with and sort of build data from that. So the idea is that we're performance-focused creative specialists. So we have performance commercials, we input our award-winning creatives through actionable channel reporting, and are able to target both ends of the funnel. So very similar to search, where we follow a user through their customer journey. We want to do that through display as well. So how that works is that initially we will start off with retargeting. So that is to basically sort of gain as much data as we can about the advertiser's site. So once we have sufficient on-site data, we really understand what an advertiser's sort of most valuable customer is. We then reinvest the commissions that we earn into prospecting, and then we reinvest into creative. But essentially what we do is work very closely with advertiser teams, with network teams, sort of to define KPIs and strategy. And the idea is that the top of the funnel fuels the bottom of the funnel, and it works in sort of a cyclical motion. And we'll have sort of regular calls, monthly catch-ups, quarterly reviews to make sure we're really understanding sort of what is driving performance. And something that we want to sort of provide for a lot of our clients, it's dependent on performance, is the creative element. But as you can see here from the array of different creatives, there's sort of different templates we used based on sort of what sector the brand is based in. So with a lot of luxury brands, they don't really like product carousels, so we can adapt things to make sure if the user was to hover over the image, it will show the specific products rather than it looking like a carousel. For example, on the far right here, Liverpool, we actually used API data, so based on player performance, search history, and dynamically populated a shirt that a user was most likely to buy. And there's various other things that we can do with brands, but essentially we work closely with sort of the brand's team to ensure that we design sort of these data-driven bespoke creatives that we hope will drive performance. And then something that we've recently launched that we're really excited and is very sort of unique to NMPi is social amplification. So this has nothing to do with sort of delivering campaigns on Facebook or Instagram. What it essentially does is utilize Instagram posts or Facebook posts as creative assets for programmatic inventory. So basically it allows you to basically connect with audiences outside the core social platforms and maximize potential of sort of social assets within sort of the programmatic space. We've launched it with a few of our sort of bigger clients and seen some really good results, and excited to try it sort of across more clients within the affiliate space. So if you do have any questions, please let us know about this. And then finally, a case study. So I've purposely not gone for a retail one, just to demonstrate sort of how we can adapt to a variety of different brands across sectors. But at the end of 2019, we partnered up with a brand called Shore Academy, and we worked with them on a cost per lead model, driving signups to their site. So they're an education e-learning platform that provide qualifications at affordable rates. Their bigger competitors are people like Udemy, Code Academy, edX. But not knowing what 2020 had in store, basically the lockdown hit, people were put on furlough, we had so much extra time on our hands that e-learning basically boomed, and there was this newfound growth, and Sure Academy looked to us to basically capitalize on that growth, and we basically adapted a full creative strategy, but then also our targeting strategy. So we implemented more granular tags, we looked at regions, we looked at specific courses that were doing well in this period, we looked at sort of top performing sites and developed a strategy that was allowed Sure Academy to basically stand up to the key competitors within the market. Here's an example of some of the creative. So native is also part of our offering. So these are creative assets that kind of blend into sort of blogs. So this worked really well for sort of education blogs, baking blogs, depending on people, what people wanted to diversify their skill set in. Then we had dynamic carousels. So specific courses were doing really well, so in nutrition and illustration. So based on users, sort of what they looked at, we would then show those courses within the creative. And then finally, the course finders, so the more interactive one. So initially, it would show this sort of brand, generic sort of creative, and then if they hovered over, they were able to sort of see specific courses. And then if they were to click on one, for example, this Excel one, we would dynamically populate them to the most relevant landing page. And we saw some really, really great results. So here on the next slide, I won't go through each of them, but 2020 was a really successful year for Sure Academy, and we were able to quickly react to the increase in demand and the newfound growth within the e-learning sector. And although 2021 hasn't been as exponentially sort of prosperous for them, we're still sort of reacting and adapting for them. But yeah, that's it. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm now going to hand over to Callum, who's going to go through paid social. Over to you, Callum.
Thank you very much, Nish. Yeah, just beforehand, I think there was another poll that was put in the chat, so feel free to go in and enter an answer into the poll. But cool, yeah. So I'm going to be going through paid social in a bit of detail. I think this is probably the channel that is least well known within the affiliate space, but one that we really want to push, and one that has a lot of scope and opportunity just based on paid social and the year that paid social has had. Before we go through the nitty gritty of our services and what we do to make us a little bit different, we wanted to just go through why paid social and why Incubeta in general. So I think, as I'm sure everyone is aware, the scale of paid social is huge. So many kind of users per day, per week, per month, and across a number of different platforms as well. So there's always going to be active users, and those users can turn into customers very quickly. And especially, as I'm sure everyone's aware of, COVID has really changed the landscape and people's buying habits as well. So again, using social and utilizing social in the best way possible is really going to have an effect on your sales, but also your wider channels as well. Second point is the industry itself. So earlier this year, there was a huge iOS 14 update, which really has changed the game when it comes to paid social and the way that you can track and you can follow users' journeys. And one thing that we'll go through today is the expertise we have in-house has allowed us to make sure that we're confident in pushing this service in an ever-changing and crazy kind of industry. And then finally, and this is really answering the question of why Incubeta, is the certainty. So when it comes to all of those people that are coming to your site or on social, to the industry and the updates and the landscape that is, the certainty of a CPA kind of alleviates the risk of both of those options. And the fact that we can work on a CPA and we can actually front the media spend ourselves allows a user, and allows a brand to be able to really push into this channel and feel confident in doing so as well. Cool. Obviously, there's a lot of agencies that can do social, and there'll be a lot of brands that can do it in-house as well. So what we wanted to do today is just kind of go through what makes us different. And as you can see on the slide, we've put this into 3 different categories. So the technical aspects, both internally and externally, the data that we're able to use and utilize, and then finally, very similar to display, the creative benefits as well, and what we can use from a creative standpoint. As I'm sure everyone's aware, social is definitely a huge benefit of a creative ad. If you see something that is static or just black and white, it's going to be very easy to scroll past in comparison to something that's bright, colourful, and easy to click through. Cool. So if I go through the technical aspects first, as mentioned, there's two kind of certain areas of the way that we look at the tech side. So the external connections, but also the internal knowledge as well. So from an external point of view, and this kind of goes to the point of the update of iOS 14 and the uncertainty of the channel itself. We are a Facebook premium partner, and we've been part of that program for a number of years, which number one allows us access to the first features. So if anything new comes out, we'll be able to kind of utilize that and to be able to use that before anyone else does. Secondly, the access to Facebook's dedicated training as well. So all our team are kind of built up and trained to use the platform itself. And then the final one, which is kind of iOS specific, is the specialized preparation we've had with the industry changes. So having such a strong connection with Facebook means that we're going to be more prepared than most to be able to utilize and to really push the brands that we work with. And then going into the internal knowledge part. So this is what we have in-house that allows us to really push this, both on a performance model, but just so we can push growth for the brands that we work with. So number one, and this is something that we've seen with all the businesses that we work with, is making sure that we're there to support with implementing of pixels and the catalog as well. These are kind of two areas that if you haven't got this right, it can be detrimental to your paid social accounts in general. Secondly, we'll always be auditing accounts as well. So that's internally and making sure that everything's built to promote, but also built to perform as well. Thirdly, the multi-channel expertise as well. So a lot of the team were built around just the performance model and other services, and have built the social from that side. So it means the team are definitely there and available to look at both social and how that it can interact with wider services, which is something that Shalaka will take you guys through in a little second. And then the final internal knowledge part is around the teams that we have available to us as well. So within Incubeta, we have a tech team, a feed team, and a creative team, and we can utilize their knowledge and their expertise to make sure that we're kind of making the most of campaigns across those different sectors as well. Cool. When it comes to data, everyone talks about data. It's a huge subject, and we understand that. And I think from a social perspective, it's even more so a very important thing to get across. And what we would like to do and how we kind of promote our services is taking that data to the next level. You'll have a huge set of data there. It's just how you use it to make sure that you're retargeting, prospecting, and pushing performance across paid social. So the first area of that is feed optimization. So very much like Google Shopping, we would need a feed for paid social. And what we do is once we're live, we'll make sure that we're optimizing and utilizing that feed to the best of our ability. So that's adding anything in from margin data, stock, to looking at prior performance and making sure that we're pushing that into our feed and our understanding of the campaigns to make sure that we're making the most out of certain products at certain times. Secondly is the site-wide data as well. Obviously, when you go onto Facebook or you go onto Instagram, you don't initially go on there to buy, but it's an important part of any journey, and it's become a huge part of a lot of brands' actual paid media presence. But understanding the site-wide data in general, understanding the people that are coming to site, are dropping off, coming onto social, having that knowledge will make it seamlessly and easy for us to retarget and understand who to prospect to. And that kind of goes into the final part of the data side, which is the audience insights as well. So understanding those people to come to site, understanding the people that are converting through a certain brand, we can take that data and build up anything from kind of a lookalike audiences and build out what a long-term customer would look like as well, and then be able to find more of them from there. So these are just three general areas in which we really want to push from a paid social perspective. And then finally, the creative elements as well. So we're very fortunate here to have a creative team that is there if you need them. So this definitely would be a benefit to any brand that is maybe a bit smaller, doesn't have a creative team in-house, wants to get up and running with paid social, but just doesn't have the capacity or the resource to be able to build out the assets to really make the most of social. We have a team here that allows us to build, design, and optimize our creative assets, and we're able to put this into our CPA as well. So there's no extra cost for the creatives that we can build. Where we go one step forward further than that is either with our internal team or with your external team, where we use the creatives that we have and be able to test these out across our campaigns to make sure that we're utilizing the right creatives for the right campaigns and even for the right products. And as you can see on the right hand side, that's put into 3 different areas of testing. So defining the metrics, what we're actually here for, what the KPIs are of this campaign. Secondly, to actually put the hypothesis together to understand what we want to make out of this and what are the creative benefits of doing this. And then finally, taking those results and making sure that they're valuable results for us, for the business and for performance. And then to kind of put that all into perspective, we then use that process and that repeats and that grows. So we keep on kind of taking those learnings week in, week out, month in, month out, to make sure that we're pushing across certain months and certain categories and certain brands as well. Cool. And to kind of put that into context, fortunate enough to work with Nobody's Child, they switched to a performance model across a number of services, and one of the strongest services was social. And what we're able to do is kind of show them what the performance model was going to do for them as a business, and how we can push growth and drive sales for the brand. And obviously we'll be sending everything through after the presentation, but what we're able to do across social especially is make sure that we're utilizing audiences, building out lookalikes based on retargeting pools, and building out what a campaign and what an optimized campaign would look like. And social supported in a strong 450% increase in ROAS year on year as well. So some really exciting stats to put out there, and again, showing the real benefit of what paid social can be for a brand. Cool. Now we've gone through kind of the core services. We also thought it'd be really cool to kind of show you what the benefits are of running a number of different services at once. So back over to yourself, Shalaka, to run through the cross channel.
Thanks, Callum. Yeah, so as Callum said, when we're running our different solutions, so we can run them standalone, but often we do run multiple services for a brand. And what we always want to do is have multi-channel strategies in place so that we're driving success across all of the different channels. And that kind of approach tends to be this 3-tiered strategy. So internally, things that we look at are audience sharing, performance insights that we can gain from the different channels, perhaps CSS has seen a bit more volume, so we're able to share that kind of data across the other channels and allow us to target users better throughout the other channels. And things like custom labels that we're able to add in within a feed, for example, bestsellers that we want to be getting out there, we know are converting well, and that's what the brand wants us to push. We can put that across all of our channels and make sure those are the products that we're getting out there for the client. More externally, we can look at insights kind of globally in different territories to inform all of our campaigns. So things like weather attributes, different types of holidays and retail seasons within different territories. We're able to integrate that as part of our campaigns to make sure that it's as kind of targeted towards that region as possible. And as well as lockdown insights, with what we're seeing at the moment, we tend to find similar trends within lockdowns. So depending on which countries are at different stages of lockdowns, we're able to apply that sort of knowledge and learning across all of our channels to make sure that we're targeting the users with the right type of messaging. And bringing them all together and using the channels to work together and to be cohesive. So sequential messaging sort of means kind of understanding every touch point in the user's journey to conversion. So people might start to kind of research with sort of a paid search ad, typing in something very generic, and then we can start showing them display banners, kind of increasing their brand awareness, hopefully getting them on site, then maybe retargeting them through a social ad, and then eventually they could convert through a Google Shopping ad. And what we want to make sure we're doing is that every ad copy, every creative is as hyper relevant to the user as possible. And that's how we'll kind of adjust our bids accordingly. And all of these insights that we gain from having this sort of visibility across the user journey, we're able to share across within our dashboards, within our performance reviews and reporting, and share with the client to try and align to being as much a part of their marketing team as we can be. And we've got a case study as well of a brand that we work with within the US called Pets Best Insurance. So they kind of offer a range of pet insurance plans, basically to allow people to take care of their pets. but we've been working with them since 2018 across a variety of different channels. And what we actually found when we first started working with them were that each of the channels were quite siloed, and we brought them together and created sort of a wider strategy. But more recently, what Pets Best wanted us to do was focus on getting new users onto the site. So we tested discovery campaigns across a number of different channels, so YouTube, Gmail, Google Discover, looked at affinity categories and in-market audiences, and we're very focused on that kind of prospecting aspect and getting upper funnel traffic on site. And what we found through our strategies across each of these channels was that we saw a 10% increase in upper funnel user engagement, and the traffic that we saw from upper funnel activity increased by 177%. So I think an example of how multi-channel strategies can improve campaigns across the whole funnel. And now I'll hand over to Nisha to run through the next steps.
Nisha, you're on mute.
Oops, sorry. I apologize for putting my camera on too early and then also muting, but thanks, Shalaka. So on to next steps. So if you have a brand that is interested in running activity with us, ideally what we would need first off is an introductory call. So with CSS, as we mentioned, it can be a bit more plug and play, but as soon as we get sort of client contact and build that partnership, it allows us to be really sort of adapt our solutions to sort of the client's needs and wants. So if they're sort of happy to go forward once we've sort of discussed everything on the introductory call and the scope of the opportunity, we will then move ahead with forecasts, and we can also run audits on sort of Google Ads account, on Facebook accounts, to sort of demonstrate the improvements we can make. Once the numbers are put together, we will then develop sort of a bespoke strategy for the client. And then sort of if they're happy to move forward, we move sort of with the onboarding steps. In terms of timelines, it can really vary. We would sort of ideally like to sort of get up and running ASAP, but we know that there's sort of certain things that might get in the way. But in order to sort of run projections, we do ask for access to sort of certain data. So ideally read-only access to GA, and if it is search, read-only access to Google Ads and Facebook, and so on. And then in terms of sort of requirements, monthly unique visitors is a really good indication of sort of if we can work with a brand. When it comes to sort of paid search, display and paid social, ideally monthly unique visitors need to be above sort of 50K, a conversion rate of above sort of 1.5% and a mid to sort of high AOV. We can be flexible in some circumstances, but just to manage expectation, if volume is very low, we will sort of struggle to really drive value on a performance model. When it comes to technical requirements, CSS is the only one where we wouldn't require tags, although it will boost performance. But when it comes to sort of search, Google Shopping, display and social, we require tags on site, and then with social, we require the pixel. But yeah, if anybody had any questions, or if there was a specific brand they wanted us to look at, we're always happy to sort of review and qualify it. Perfect. I think that is the main sort of bulk of the presentation over now. That I can see a few questions in the chat, so feel free to ask more. But yeah, we're now on the sort of Q&A, which Callum will lead, and then yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, what we can do is we'll go over to the people that have asked questions, and I'll ask them, I guess, first one. Thanks, Joey, for your question. This one's directed to yourself, Keir. How easy is it to get set up and running with CSS activity?
Yeah, in terms of getting set up with CSS activity, all it takes is for us to join the program and be accepted. I would say that everything that from there on is on our end. We do often see that we need to come back with updated feeds, so sometimes the feed might be outdated. That's the kind of main issue that we do face in terms of coming back to the client. But yeah, from your perspective, it's just a matter of being accepted on the program. We can take things away from there.
Cool, thank you very much. Hope that's answered your question, Joey. And then I guess this question is for yourself, Shalaka, from David. Is gap coverage available also for Yandex and Naver?
Yeah, so we do have experience of running campaigns across different sort of international search platforms. It's really based on sort of search interest and volumes. So what I would say is if you're able to send us an email with the brand that you have in mind, we can work out kind of what volumes are, what we're able to do in terms of Yandex and Naver. I know that different search engines have slightly different setups as well. So what we'd probably do is organise a call to run through that all and understand a little bit more about what's happening with that brand in those spaces. And then we can put together a forecast for you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Shalaka. Oh, another question's come in. Thank you very much, Alex. Can you do much to help us work out whether there are any opportunities with our clients? Nish, do you want to take that one?
Perfect. Yes, thanks, Callum. Yeah, there's a lot of analysis that we can sort of run to identify either sort of gaps or improvements that we can make. So as sort of Shalaka mentioned, there's in-house tools where we can sort of see where there's gaps within your search space. But then sort of when it comes to sort of Facebook and display, we can also run audits. So from a creative point of view, but also delivery. So yeah, if there are brands where you're unsure if they're running or if they're doing a good job, there's definitely areas that we can support in.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Nish. And thank you everyone for listening in, and apologies that we've gone over by a few minutes. Unless there's any other questions, I just see there's a message come through. Oh, that's good stuff. We will go into the prize draw, and just to make it as fair as possible, the way that we've done the prize draw and the way we want to do it is that everyone that's here right now will be entered into the prize draw. And similar to the emails you've been getting from the Incubeta email, what we'll be doing straight after this is doing the prize draw with everyone that's attending right now, and send through to the lucky winner what they've won. And just to go through what the prize is as mentioned, with our friends at Master of Malt, they've kindly offered a £50 a gift for any kind of alcohol that a person would like. So you would have a choice, and that's from gin, vodka, whiskey, and also an alcohol-free range as well for anyone that it doesn't drink. So hopefully that's an enticing offer. But apart from that, that's all we've got today. So appreciate everyone joining. We'll be following up with all the information and the content today. But if you did have any questions, I see that Shalaka has added our email address into the chat. So feel free to give us an email, and fingers crossed we can look at some opportunities in the coming weeks to really onboard brands and push performance on a pure CPA model. So thanks very much. Enjoy the rest of your days, and yeah, speak to everyone very soon.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.